this crackling. Interference in this mic. Oh, finally. Oh, let's get back with that. All right, getting ready here. Good morning. All right. Good morning, my friends. Going live here on the Instagram. How are you doing? Standing by? I hope so. Here we go. Going live on the gram. That's right. Let's get the camera switching here for you guys. There we go. Excellent. That's working. Am I live? Let's go live. So I'm checking connection here on Instagram, guys. Oh, it says we're going live. Oh, I'm live. Okay. This is good. All right. Here I am, guys. Good morning. Sunday. What day is it? It's Sunday. I said that, but it's the 12th. That's right. Let me get my other camera going, guys. Yeah, just getting up to speed here, guys. I hope you can hear me well. Let's see. I have everything dialed in. It looks that way. Yeah, we want that. Yeah, okay, it's good. Oh, looky. People are joining already. Hello, my friends. Good morning. We have, let's see, the Gula guy has joined. The I Dream of Drop Tines has joined. Hello, cousins. The good morning, cousin. Thank you, guys. Yes, with the Mexican. And the Bruce Lane has joined. Thank you. Cutting Edge Solutions. Thank you for joining. I hope all is well. I don't know which. Good morning. Which Cutting Edge Solutions gentleman is this, or woman? I believe one of you is out in at Cannabis, wrapping things up probably. Hello, cousin Bruce. Thank you, cousin, for the compliment. Thank you. Checking my excuse me. Let me clear the bong hit out of throat. Yeah, checking my comments on YouTube. Lee Cycle, thank you for joining. Good morning, my friend. I was just wondering. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I hope I'm dreaming of cannabis live with you one day. Yes, of course, my friend. Hold on. Let me turn down microphone and clear throat properly. Yeah, yes, sorry about that. Hold on. Yes, Sean. Hello, cousin. Come, it's Sean from Cutting Edge Solutions in Spain. Hello, my friend. All right, he's out there in Spanish. Thank you for tuning in. It's quite the honor indeed to have the nutrient company that is hooking your cousin Nikolai up anyhow. And everybody, the support is most excellent, guys. If you tune into last reels and story, you know that I give much big love and thank you to all of you that have been continuing to support me here on the gram and Facebook and YouTube as well. Thank you very much, guys. It means very much to me, especially now that I have a little bit of a following, and I have some most excellent companies that like what I'm doing and see some value in it, and have and look. This is proof right here, guys. This is like a bit of a dream come true for me, guys. Hello, more Ganja Farms. Thank you for tuning in. The Mama Nugs has joined. The Garden of Weeding has joined. Thank you. I've been good, Gula guy. I'm really excellent. Looky. Right there, my latest greatest sponsor, guys, Photon Tech. You know, I just make my debut announcements this past week. I got the delivery, and I'm starting to do some most excellent content, integrating their products into the grow. I'm getting the grow all dialed in. That's right, my friends. That's what I've been working on this week. Michael is at in Spain at Spanish, putting on another one of his most excellent organic cups there with all our cannabis cousins there in Spain. That's right, Barcelona to be exact. And so, anyhow, Michael is wrapping things up. I believe the judging results are in, and they're going to be announcing the awards today. They're probably already announcing them, my friends. They're ahead of us, I believe, 5 hours maybe. But anyhow, so what's going on here? I'll give you an update if you're interested in the pseudo-apprenticeship with growing with the gurus that I've been doing. Is that we are at ending of week 5 of vegetation. It's been like 5 weeks since I've put the seeds and they popped, and so where we're at with things is I had to move them. If you're on Facebook or um, YouTube, you can go to there and you can see behind scenes of the seedling tent that I started things out there and all the most excellent products that I have coming up to be unboxing in that and integrating into the grow. So yeah, anyhow, I had to do a last minute. Well, it's always last minute. It seems like trying to keep up with things. Transplanting. I have to admit, yeah, Michael and the professor and the good guy Gordy Johncock will not be impressed that I let the girls get a little bit the root bound in their little pseudo solo cups that I had. Yeah, so and then I had a bit of drying issues, so yeah, of course, not optimum, but I got them transplanted in nick of time, as they say, and they're in now 1 gallon pots. You can see one of them are in these little air bottom tearaway bag pot that I've got from the good guy Paul at Air Bottom Bags. That's making me some custom air bottom bags for the Autopot system. Yeah, I'm working on some extra large ones, the new 13-gallon ones and 9-gallon modules that hold those, so I can do the living soil with Michael and the Earth Stater guys and let it ride a little bit longer, Or I don't know what I'm saying. Anyhow, so that's what's going on. And yeah, so I had a little bit of EC issues, guys. Yeah, they got it right away. One of the babies that have been a little bit sensitive really started to show these signs of some nutrient burn or just some sort of burning because I let them root bound and they dry out too quick. And I guess from watching one of Shark Mouse Farms' latest reels, it's just right on point of what's going on. The EC levels climb as the dry back continues, like the percentage. It's not anyhow. So the EC levels are raised up, and so I had to do when right after the transplanting. It was perfect time to do a flush and see where I was standing with things. So yeah, I had to put a liter of water through each 1 gallon pot and check the runoff, and I got it down to 900 parts, or was it 1.6 on the EC again? Like 900 parts per million, or is it 1.8? I think 1.8 EC, 900 parts per million. I could be wrong with the EC, but anyhow, yeah, so that's where they are, and I put them in the new Cloud Lab 432. It's a 2x3x5 tent that they are housed in right now temporarily until I get the pseudo grow room all dialed in. I'm having issues with the. Oh, somebody has joined in. Stand by. I'll continue this in a minute. I did not see this. Hello, who's requesting? Oh, it's the Shark Mouse Farms cousin. Standing by for the Shark Mouse, the professor of cannabis. Hold on, let me fix my mustache. He's coming on any second now. I said to, did I added him. I accept. Yes, there you are.
My cousin, how are you?
Cousin, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm just trying to get set up here. Bear with me momentarily.
You take your time. I'll start. Just continue rambling on. If you've been listening, you're not quite impressed with me and what I've been doing with the Mona Lisa and Aqua.
I'm learning about drybacks here from you. Super impressed.
Well, I know about this dryback from you from a long time ago before I even chime in with you when I was quite the newbie and shy. And I was like, boy, this guy is quite technical, all the like controlling things. Well, I do pseudo drybacks, cousin. I just let them happen accidentally sometimes. But yeah, I try to catch it at the right moment. But this time, my friend, as I emergency text our good guy Gordy Johncock and sent him the picture of the beginning of the tip starting to get a little bit burning, and he saw the little cups and he could tell by the node spacing that they were stacking up a bit close, and he said that looks like you're about a week into root bound, cousin. You need to get them out and transplanted. And what is happening is that as it dries out, the in the heat in the roots and all that, the EC levels climb, right? And so then all of a sudden you have a percentage of the hydrations to the nutrients. And so I think that is what I've been suffering in my lack of experience is letting the plants dry. I had this issue last year, even with the autopots, when I did not fill up reservoir in time. So that's where we're at, cousin. And I'll show you real quick. I have the mutated one right here that I've brought out to show everybody. And she's still going. It's interesting. I believe it looks like kale to me. But anyhow, thank you for tuning in. Are you there, my friend? I think he may have froze. Anyhow, so I'll continue on. Let me see. I have another joining. I ramble too much. I accept. Let me see. I think I lost him and I must accept again, guys. We're working through the technicals. Get them out that pot. Yeah, okay. There's Gordy and there's Shark. We're back. So you guys are up to speed. You hear what's going on?
I'm here. I'm good to go. Ready to roll.
Okay.
Oh, it's all right. Getting there. You guys got a big shout out. So I don't know if anybody saw the first Smoke of the Day podcast with King Sour Waves Genetics. So he is a master meme maker, and it's kind of like Eminem in the sense that you don't really want to poke that bear because he will just sort of eat you alive in meme form. Well, he was the first Smoke of the Day, and Smart Justin decided that he was going to go and have a constructive debate with the gentleman about crop steering and salt inputs and the whole fun conversation. Long story short, he and I got talking in the DMs, and I was kind of worried that I was going to get memed into oblivion like a lot of other people have. But turns out that he is rocking the cutting edge solution in his spaces and absolutely loves it. And he and I have connected over that use and how we're running it with one another. So it's weird how those things just sort of come back into play full circle after what started out as a bit of a tenuous incident.
Yeah, for sure, right? Looks like Sean's on here. So our manager Sean is at Cannabis. So he's in Barcelona right now, checking it out. Sounds like that's been fun over there.
Everyone looks like they've been having a pretty good time for sure.
Oh, dude, yeah, it's been, from what I hear, it's been real busy compared to any of the conventions we have here. So he sounds like he's having a good time.
Yes, I've been following Michael Fang over there, and a couple of the Tony Esposito of Esposito's Doinks, the master doink roller, is over there with his craftsmanship, and he's been posting some content, and I get to see there's various venues, right? There's various venues, and there's a lot going on. It would be quite interesting to see the cannabis community there internationally. I'm quite excited to. In fact, I just fill out some paperwork to get myself abroad here in the summer. So anyhow, I'm looking forward to meeting many of our cannabis cousins. But let me get back to where we're at with the grow. I don't know if you guys heard, but I had a bit of. I won't go into it too deep. But Gordy, you know, I waited too long. You caught it just in time, or as I brought it to your attention, that I was root bound about maybe 4 or 5 days, and that because they dry out too quick and the temperature, the EC levels rise, all that sort of the technical stuff that Shark Mouse just posted in his reel. It's ironic how the universe works, right? I'm having
sent you that Shaq meme right away that came up as soon as we got off the phone. I was like, oh, there it is. But
yeah.
our cousin,
I've been waiting the same as you just to try and sex a couple of these, and these will dry out now within an hour and a half. I'll have to come down and water them because they're taking up so much water that if I was to try and leave it for an entire day, the plants would die out.
And that's what I told cousin Nikolai here is what I do if I have to leave them in a small container like that because of the fact that it is cocoa and it can sit at 95% moisture content and still transfer oxygen. It's just put it in a flat and fill that flat up full of water or nutrient. Just let that stuff sit there. Like, you know, you might get a little flack about it, but yeah, that's exactly it. Fill them up full of water and let them go. They'll drink it up.
I'm not coming down here 30 times a day to water solo cups. Get it?
No. So, yeah, that's what I did, Gordy. I did just that. I poured it in there, and then it was another day before I got to them. But they were, too root bound, and my roots did not look quite as white as his. And again,
Yeah.
but I have, again, guys, I did a mixture of the Great Lakes water only. It was like a 60 cocoa, the growers, to the Great Lakes. And now I did more of a cocoa with a little bit left over to the Great Lakes. I did the high porosity one, Gordy.
Oh.
So I could, until I get them set up in the auto pots, I will take the 1 gallons and I'll transplant into the auto pots and then start the top watering until the roots take full. And then I'll do the wicking system. You know, it takes a couple weeks for them to establish in the auto pots. So where I'm at is that, so Shark, real quick, before I start rambling on about where I'm at with the pseudo grow room while Michael's away and my latest, greatest products coming on scene. Finish up with that reel and get into it real quick. What you meant by all that. So what's going on with me?
Now, are you referring to the dry back reel, correct?
Yeah, like how the EC, you know, like you touch on that because you lost me after the third paragraph.
So what essentially we're looking at is when we're trying to initiate crop steering, it sounds hyper complex, and there's so many different terms and numbers and targets that you have to hit. But in reality, if you're looking at your plant as sort of a swinging curve of up and down that follows your life cycle, it'll become a pretty easy to follow pattern. So your lights come on, the plant will dry back a little bit. You want to start watering once that happens. Bring that water up to saturation, and then maintain that water level for the rest of the day. So it's going to follow that cyclical curve all the way across the grow. So dry, refresh, maintain, dry back, and that's all we're trying to do throughout the day. So at the beginning of the day, we're trying to bring up that dry back number. So overnight, our plants will not have had anything to drink. That moisture content will drop. As that happens, the salinity of our root zone will increase as the moisture leaves, right? So now when the lights come on, the plants are going to be under osmotic stress to take up whatever remaining water is in your medium. So they're going to work really, really hard to try to get that water up first thing in the morning. And at that point, we're going to slowly bring up the water content, slowly dropping the root zone EC, making it easier for the plant to drink as we go and go and go. By midday, we're in peak light. Now your root zone EC is at the lowest it's going to be all day, and the plant is drinking until about an hour before lights go off, and then we start to dry back our medium again to start that process over for the next day.
So, and one thing that we had talked about, you and I had talked about, that we've learned that, I'm trying to teach you is, like, if you have your EC and your water content inside of the pod, they take up a value of space, right? You have a soil medium, you have your water, and you have your EC, and there's all value of space there. So as the water content goes down, naturally this volume expands up because it still has to maintain 100% volume in the pot all the time. So as your pot dries out, the EC climbs, which means that same 2.2 EC you were feeding at before, which was fine, which feeds really healthy, all of a sudden becomes stronger because it's a bigger volume in the pot than what it was previously. And that's why controlling these drybacks and moisture contents becomes more important the more you learn about it. And feeding out when your plants drink and when they don't drink. Like Leaf Cycle said, he watered right before his light shut off, which meant that his plants sat all night in a haperate, hyper-saturated medium. And then in the morning, they have to try and get that up and get the process started again. But you're at peak moisture rather than lower moisture, so you can climb up on that scale.
So, and there's a couple of things that get brought up when we talk about this often is one being how do we manage that in RDWC or in DWC, deep water culture grows. You can still manage crop steering cues in a flood table, but we're managing that salinity through our input solution as opposed to our drybacks, right? So now we're more manipulating our reservoir EC that's coming that we're feeding our plants as opposed to managing that root zone EC that's happening through drybacks, right? If that makes sense. In no-tills and organics, again, you're not watering every day, so it's how do I crop steer in a no-till bed or an organic bed? The same generative cues still apply as far as light intensity, higher BPD, lower water content in the actual soil. We're just not going to worry so much about that dryback number, right? So now, as opposed to monitoring a daily dryback in a no-till bed, we're just going to offer less water per watering event, if that makes sense, while all of the other cues are initiated in its place.
Or we fluctuate the BPD in the room specifically to make the uptake more water. So, like, if you're in a DWC or a big bed, like he said, you may not be able to control the dryback, but what you can do is you can dry the room out with a dehump to get that vapor pressure density down, right?
Brings up more water.
So we're pulling water from that leaf all of a sudden. It's not struggling to get it out into a humid room, which means that we've sped that plant up on its drinking cycle and increased the internal osmotic pressure. Whereas if we have a really high humidity, the plant is pushing to get that moisture out because there's such a high humidity level in the room.
And why that can be effective is that we worry, say, for example, in Stonewall or in cocoa, that it's a very razor's edge of how much water is in the media and how much water the plant can take up while keeping up with that amount of water, right? So there is a possibility that by overshooting our VPD in a Stonewall, for example, we could actually take more water than the plant can pull up at any given time. This comes down to matrix potential, but everything's very tight and on a razor's edge, so there's not much room to play there. But in soil and the WC, we don't run the risk of not being able to take up the available water because that water is there.
So what would be the most optimum way to control things? Like you're doing it with is it the Hydromesh 2.0 Shark? How you're controlling things? How do you,
it depends on the practice you're running. When you look at my space, even in this space here, and you see it like all of these automated controls that are in a very tight parameter, the larger you get, the bigger you scale this up, the harder that becomes and the less viable all of those controls become, the more fluctuations you see in different areas of that larger space. And the more reasonable and the more effective, less controlled inputs start to make sense, like using a soil with organic amendments or using a full organic input and letting the sun do its thing. You know, if you have a 150-acre farm, you're not going to be able to control any of those parameters the way I want to control them in here to make the things I do effective. So it entirely depends on what you're doing. If you're in a small grow space, being able to tightly manage your environment will help you tightly manage your irrigation strategy. The larger that environment, the harder it becomes to do.
And that's just what I'm suffering right now, guys. I got the girls from the smaller seedling tent that was easy to control with a small humidifier, my Conair 1850 watt hair dryer, all controlled by the Inkbird smart controllers. It's a very small price point to get into the seedling. Then you move to a bigger tent, bigger lights, need a bigger humidifier, and then I have my pseudo grow room area, and I cannot get the humidity up. I got too many plants, guys. I couldn't put them in the tent, so I've got 3 outside of the tent in the area that we'll be growing in, but I don't have the right humidifier right now because in wintertime the humidity is a lot lower here. And I guess last year we must have had more moisture because I cannot keep the humidity up to 65, Gordy, here in the room. And they're suffering, obviously, from the ones that are in the tent. So anyhow, it's an issue. Go ahead.
Do you have like a aerator?
Aerator for?
Like for a fish tank or something, you know, the little like air stone that you throw on the bottom of your res?
Well, I am not using the reservoir yet, right?
Okay, well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, so so the air bottom bags have the air dome, and I have modified those with air stones from fish aquariums because their little foam things don't blow enough air. I have read,
Yeah.
so that's how I was controlling air coming into that. So yes, I do have the air, but going back to the reservoir. We talk about this and you tell me the cutting edge isn't good to aerate because of something to do with, you talk about that.
Well, anyways, I'll go back to my first point. So if you take that air pump and you stick it inside of a jar of water, right, with no air stone on the bottom of it in your tent and just let it like bubble the hell out of that water, it'll dramatically increase the humidity.
Oh, I see.
You want, that's a mushroom growing technique.
Oh.
For humidity.
See that making sense as the water's agitated, some of it's going to off-gas into the atmospheric pressure. It makes perfect sense. I never even thought about that.
Yeah, so if you have like a monotub or something like that in a small space, that's what a lot of people will do. But it works in a tent as well if you let it run for a little bit. You just throw your air on the bottom of a milk jug and cut the top off or something like that. Let it bubble and go, and your humidity will naturally rise because that air is escaping and pulling moisture with it as it's escaping through the surface.
Good idea.
The other thing to bring up is if you have an air stone inside of your reservoir bubbling all the time, because cutting edge is mineral based and not sodium based, right? You have all of this extra oxygen and hydrogen being released, and you're causing a chemical reaction. A lot of the time, what you'll see, one is your pH will, if you're aerating, because our pH, as you and I have talked about before, is actually just our perceived hydrogen level in the water. Right? It's not actually a level of acids and bases that we're measuring. It's how much free radical hydrogen is in it, right? And we're adding acids and bases to either release more hydrogen or take hydrogen out of the system.
I don't remember that conversation.
Well, and a lot of what's going to affect the fluctuation of your, not only your pH of your reservoir, as Gordy was just referring to, but your air stone is going to bring in. You know, if you keep your reservoir, your water temperature at a specific rate based on what we're trying to achieve, I keep my reservoir at 19 degrees Celsius because that's where the most available oxygenation is at, as well as the best root uptake. But if I'm running an air stone through my reservoir that's pulling in root temperature ambient air that's 75 degrees, eventually that's going to kick up the temperature of my reservoir, constantly bringing up the temperature, fluctuating the pH, causing it to spike, meaning I'm going to have to constantly manage my reservoir pH. You've got airborne debris that's being that air stone continually running. When I did have an air stone, I'd like to keep it running on a timer, so I'd run it every hour for 15 minutes just to agitate the tank and keep it from stagnating.
Anytime I've run an air stone, I put it on a timer, and if my pump goes off at 11 o'clock, my air stone kicks on at 10:45, bubbles for 45 minutes, oxygenates the water, and then kicks off when the pump starts. That way you're not constantly agitating and causing this chemical reaction. Because like you said, you are pulling in particulate, and you're also pulling in carbon dioxide at roughly 400 parts per million. So you're adding carbon into this water. It's a big filter. You know what I mean? You're filtering everything through this, and that grabs those particulates like minerals and stuff and causes a little bit of a fallout over time. It doesn't happen so much with RO, but you are adding chemistry and oxygen, air and energy into this tank all the time.
So the should I be doing that then, Gordy, this next time around? Because I did have pH issues with the water, and that must be because of the temperature changes. Maybe, I mean, we're talking, is 3 degrees going to make the pH change, or 5 degrees? Because I believe my room sits pretty consistent in temperature by at least 3 to 5 degrees.
Any change you're going to see from where your reservoir started to rising a degree or 5 degrees will have an impact from a chemistry perspective on that water chemistry. The amount of available oxygen dramatically drops with every increase in degrees Celsius, as well as the pH rises with every increase in degrees Celsius. So any change chemically to your water is going to have a cascading effect of other impacts that it has down the chain.
And then more on your farms, you want to always aerate a DWC. You have to, just because they are growing in water all the time. And if you remove that oxygen level to them, then they cannot sustain life. So that's why in DWC, you typically see it circulate back to one large container, pH adjusted regularly through an automated system like a Blue Lab adjustment or something like that. And then it's sent back out to the tank. Or you are doing it the old school way where you're coming in with a meter and you're checking each res and just doing the slight adjustment. But that's just a part of DWC that you choose to do with that style. Even trying to mitigate a lot of what we just talked about, I still use a Growy automated pH adjustment system because there is going to be drift from day 1 to day 4 in your reservoir. It's just the nature of moving water and water chemistry. So that's just one less thing that I have to come down and physically remember to do. So as a matter of convenience, I utilize a pH automation. But I think that when you're using the autopots, it's kind of a little bit of a different conversation because you're wicking water, so your plant's roots are constantly going to be submerged in water. We don't want that water to stagnate, and we most certainly don't want that water to be depleted in BO. So, one, you're using the clay pebbles at the bottom to allow for better oxygenation of those roots. 2, you're oxygenating that water via the air stone attachment inside that clay mound or whatever the case is. And then on top of that goes your plant with the medium, not really having to worry about overcompacting or not getting enough oxygen because it's pulling it all up through that clay ball substrate. I think without having that air stone, you're going to run into significant issues of having to change your reservoir day in and day out, not only from a stagnation issue, but also you'll find that your pH in the actual plant reservoirs, in those autopot reservoirs, skyrockets really quickly because the temperature in there and in those bottoms where the plant lives is much greater than what it is in the actual reservoir. Right.
So that's what I had the problem with last year is I was running different air bottom bags, a 3, a 5, and a 6. They're different heights. And depending on the wicking, right, and this was and I had one in cocoa, one in the Detroit Nutrient Company, and then one other ways. But different wicking, different soil medium, it all had issues with holding that. And now I see my shortcomings with the pH. I start with pH at 5.6 and it would walk up naturally. I thought that was a good thing, and I'd come back 4 days later and I was up near 7 sometimes. Maybe not that high, right?
A fun fact about Cutting Edge is the guy who invented this, Uncle John, has always grown on scale. And when he was developing in this, and you can ask him if you see him, we'll get you two together at some point. We are pH. Let's see, how do I phrase this? You will not lock a plant out based with cutting edge solutions. A lot of nutrients have to be in this particular pH line to follow that chart for nutrient absorption. Find it on Google. We're broadly available. So if you're feeding at a 5 or you're feeding at a 7, you have availability to everything that's in that food because of the way this fertilizer is specifically designed. We have most of our customer base to start with out in California. You're mixing up 3,000 gallon reservoirs on the side of a hill with no power, right? That's where our roots come from for this fertilizer. So it is, if you want to get really technical in crop steer and be very specific with your pH, you'll get a better product. I'm not ever going to argue that fact. But if it does swing around in you a little bit, you're not taking up any less phosphorus or potassium or anything else when you use this.
And that's a very good point, is that there's a lot of bottled salts or box salt companies that are designed specifically for pushing that envelope as hard as you can. They can drip. I'm thinking Athena, right? You can't really make that same mistake. They're fantastic lines, and the chemical analysis is 100% on point. But they're designed to do one specific thing, and that's push as hard as you can. And if you make that mistake on one of those lines, you're going to pay for it in the plant at the end of the day. You don't want to run one of those at 3C at a 6.2 pH because your plant's going to say, "Forget it, I'm done. Have a good day. See you later." Whereas with cutting edge, you're going to have there's a buffering in between that 5.5 and that 6.5 range, where especially in the soil cocoa medium, where it will walk itself to the ideal buffered range of that 5.8 to 6.0 uptake range. So you can have it both ways with the cutting edge. Some you can't. Like I said, there's some that are designed specifically to go hard or go home, whereas others are more designed to be a little more inclusive to what it is you're trying to achieve.
Well, yeah, and that's why it is, because it gives you the ability to swing around and play with it, to design it, because like you have learned, and we've talked about over and over, this is all a lifestyle, right? You two can have the same tent, the same lights, the same fertilizer, the same cocoa, absolutely everything. You guys are almost level on the world if you follow the latitude around, right? But it does not mean things are going to function for both of you the same way. You know what I mean? And it gives you time to play, tune it in for what you have going on.
Plus, I don't have the Flora-Fox helping me every day. That's would be like fairy tale dream come true. Anyhow,
how's that?
Tell her.
Have me over. I'll be your right hand.
Yeah, cousin. I'll have to have you here someday. I wish. You're too busy with all the. Go ahead.
When are you going to jump into the larger bags?
So I have Paul from Air Bottom Bags making me up some custom 13-gallon Air Bottom bags, because I did not see this before, but Autopots has a new, I believe, triple X or double XL module system, right? Yeah, XXL. And so I reach out to Luke at Autopots, and we're going to work on something. I'm going to get 2 of those modules, and Paul from Air Bottom Bags is hooking me up. So yes, I'll have custom 13-gallon Air Bottom bags in there, and I'm going to be running. Gordy, I want to talk to you about some other of the organic cocoa too. So living soil. I'm trying to come up with a solution of the earth stayer, perhaps. living soil. They're coming up with some new soils, guys. I'm going to try those out with
I
Michael.
have to get off topic for 1 second because you
Yeah.
just made mention of organic cocoa. And I saw a video yesterday of some dude recycled coconut husks into bowls. Bowls. Millions of dollars a year he's making.
Yeah.
He takes the
So
coconut.
Mr.
coconut
you
Takes half of the coconut, put some resin on it. Here's a bowl for $12. Have a good day.
Where is he from?
UK somewhere.
It's not from some island.
They
like
don't even have coconuts in the UK.
That's a shame that somebody in one of them small islands didn't think of this, and he's like changed the whole island around just because of a coconut idea. For fuck's sake!
I guarantee you that there's millions of families in Sri Lanka that have been eating out of coconut bowls for generations.
Yeah,
And never
get paid for it.
Yeah. Oh my Lord, that's good idea. Why do I complicate my idea so much and try to do simultaneous live streams? Anyhow, so yeah, that's great topic of conversation, guys. Yeah, I don't. Gordy, yeah, the cocoa. This is what I wanted to ask you. Stay on the topic of cocoa and give you a chance to shout it out again for growers. What makes it unique? Because I read a conversation about. Somebody asked me, where is this cocoa sourced from? Because different places have different contaminants, and these are things we need to think about, even when you're dealing with living soil. Again, last week I talk about lead in soil and things like that, and it's important to test all your soils, because even if you're getting a great living soil, if they're digging it up from a region that just had a massive tanker spill, like down in Ohio or something, then you could have some issues you did not know about. Anyhow, so talk about growers.
So all of our cocoa at growers is a single source organic cocoa from India. We actually sent somebody over there and tested all of the available cocos that were on the market at source, and then we bought off the sole contract for the cleanest one that was on the market to start with. So a big problem with the cocoa market is it used to be really dirty, right? And cocoa, when you think about when it started in the 80s, was an absolute waste byproduct that was never treated. When you go to areas of the world that have large, abundant amounts of cocoa fiber, they use it for water filtration and these giant water filtration plants for cities and stuff like that. And it's used for big filters. And then once those filters were spent and they've absorbed as much as they can out of the water, they would pull it up, they would brick it up, and then they would send it to us. So what we're doing is actually getting single source virgin coconut. It's never been used for anything else. It's pulled immediately out of the textile company. So basically, when we look at a coconut, right, let's start at the basics, right? So we have a coconut. On the outside, we have really long hairs, right? All these hairs are peeled off, and they're used for textiles. So they're used for clothing, they're used for rope, they're used for shingles, just immense amounts of industrial purposes that you would use a fiber textile the same way any of us would use wood for stuff. The middle part is called the pith. That's where the coconut fiber comes from. And then you have the meat on the inside, obviously. So that pith is just a waste product. It can be recycled into a million different things and used multiple times before it hits the U.S. market. That's why we made sure to buy single source virgin and buy out the contract for it. So we always have a sustainable, clean cocoa that's never been used for anything. We triple wash it with RO water. So it's clean before we even start screwing with it again. So we're taking the cleanest product, we're triple washing it, and then we're adding in calcium, magnesium, and then in some products we have dolomite in there too. The product you guys are using does not have dolomite, but our high porosity mix does.
Okay. Interesting. That was most thorough explanation. And that is good, because that was the next thing they asked me. Make sure your cocoa is like pH clean and wash it or something. And I was like, I'm sure.
The washing of the cocoa is a different thing that somebody may have referred to, and that they mean that to buffer the cocoa through a wash, and that's essentially to complete all the chemical exchanges, the ionic exchanges that are happening within the coconut fiber, because the coconut fiber can hold a lot of electronically charged ions, positively charged ions, that will in effect impact your nutrient solution uptake availability if it's not properly dealt with before you grow plants in it. So, for example, if you go to pour a calcium solution into a rooted plant in unbuffered cocoa, that cocoa is going to hold on to a lot of those ions because there's still a lot of positive ion exchanges that haven't been completed yet prior to your plant rooting in that medium. So that's what people are referring to when they mean wash your cocoa.
Another process I'd like to avoid. Thank you, Growers Cocoa. Yeah.
Yeah, so amount of sodium chloride. You
Say-
think about coconut growing in a tropic environment, they absorb salt the entire lifespan of them. It's just more and more salt because it's next to the ocean, the soil's full of salt. And that's really what we're buffering out, and then so you're washing all that sodium chloride out to get the EC below a 1. And then we're rebuffering in things like calcium and magnesium, like Shark had mentioned, which help with those ionic transfers of nutrient into the root mass. And that's why it's there for you. That's why you get your bag and it's a 1.5 EC, is because we've added calcium and magnesium back in so that your plant isn't struggling to absorb nutrient. It's just there. The chemical reactions that are necessary are already abundantly happening, and it just makes the product easier to use.
And you can start with seed.
One last step.
Say
One at
again,
a time,
Shark.
I guess.
Say again, Shark.
It's just one less step for the grower to have to initiate prior to worrying about transplanting their seedling and then wondering why it's not taking up the way you want it to.
I like that. So yes, of course, we could put seedlings right into any of the growers' tested formulas.
Correct. Yep. No problem.
So
Hated them.
it is quite unique on the market then, would you say?
Yeah, we've gone above and beyond. We do a lot of things that other companies aren't doing, like the bags that you guys received. When you received them, they were less than 3 weeks old. Everything we do is in small batch quantities. We store it indoors. It's manufactured indoors. None of it hits the sunlight until you decide to. Put it out there. Everything, even our bulk materials, are all processed indoors. We are a little bit higher priced than some of the other cocos on the market, but that's because we're not cutting corners. We go.
You mentioned a great point about being processed indoors. I've received compressed cocoa bricks that I found larvae inside those bricks simply because they've been exposed to the elements for as long as they have. It's a great home for insects and bugs to squirrel away in. And then these bricks get compressed in and sealed in, and you bring them home and you rehydrate them, and all of a sudden you get things flying around your house. You can't figure out why.
Yeah, and you know who stored it too. That's the other thing. You could be buying other products that are been sitting in a warehouse for the past 16, 18 months before you even get to them. If you're opening up a bag of any type of medium and you see algae on the inside of the plastic, or you have fungus gnats, that's because it's last season's soil, or maybe even the season's soil before that. A lot of our soil that we get here in the U.S. comes from Canada, which means that it's manufactured in Canada. It's shipped over here. It's stored at customs, stored here at a warehouse. Then it hits a wholesaler, sits in the wholesaler's warehouse. Then it hits a retail store, sits in the retail store's warehouse, and then it ends up in your basement. What happened? A, and Z in between, that's anybody's guess. So that's where we're different. With Growers Cocoa, everything is small batch. Everything is made to order. It's shipped out consistently. Our machinery is able to keep up with national demand just as we manufacture it, so we don't have pallets sitting around. And there's no storage in between you and us typically. It's right from us to the store to you.
Oh boy. So yeah, I had several bags of the Great Lakes left over from last season, right? And I opened it up to mix here, and I noticed that I am getting some algae in one of the pots. And the biggest thing that is kind of turning me off to the living soil, honestly, indoors, is the smell. It just, it really changed the whole smell of my basement. And I'm not quite sure Cousin is going to like that when he comes back from his trip out west. And it smells a little bit rootsy in the basement. And we have a very dry basement here for Michigan standards, guys. And so that's why I wanted to maybe perhaps, but this will be changing the game plan with Michael. I have to have a living soil for Michael because that is the way of the fang. And but anyhow, I wanted to maybe touch with you about the growers organic, because I wanted to do like an organic thing in this other giant
Yeah.
auto. So we got the smaller auto pots with the air bottom bags running cocoa and cutting edge with Shark, and I will be doing an organic thing with Michael, right, and Living Soil. But I want to maybe do the organic cocoa. I'll have the green bag in here as well.
So we're the only loose fill coconut fiber potting soil on the market that is actually organic. So we've washed this product out. It's organic cocoa to start with, obviously, because it's just coconut pith. But what we've done is we've triple washed it with RO water, and then we've rebuffered it in with organic calcium and magnesium rather than the standard for what we're using for the other ones. California has labeled it organic, which is the hardest state to get labeled organic. So we did not get it certified. Companies like Omri and stuff like that. I'm not really sure about the Canadian market, but like Omri for us is only 65% by volume. So a lot of these certifications you're just paying for, right? So we didn't even worry about it. And the fact that California was willing to label it as organic on the bag meant that it passed all of CDFA testing. So, but we are one of the only loose fill organic cocoa. So what I would recommend to you is take our cocoa. I like a vegan amendment. The reason I say that, right, is they are plant-based. So you were talking alfalfas, kelps, stuff like that. It's not going to stink in your basement. Without the guano in there, without the excess bone meal in there, stuff like that, you're not going to build up a lot of those decomposing
fats and oils from organic materials is what's causing that.
Yeah, and that's
rancid smell.
And that's a lot of animal-based materials.
So,
yeah, bone meal
a lot of the living soils. So would be a good topic with Michael the next time he comes on, being that he practices the vegan lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right. So if he's growing in living soil, is there a vegan living soil? Because I've read even on the Great Lakes, it has bone. Does it not have bone meal in it? I believe so. I'd have to get the bag, but bone meal.
Sea kelp.
Sea kelp, yeah.
Sea kelp is not organic? Or I'm sorry.
So it is, depending on where it's harvested and how it tests out. Really with kelp, it's all organic, but you want to check to make sure the brand that you're using tests clean. Because North Atlantic sea kelp is different than, South Atlantic sea kelp. They absorb different things. Different areas of the world have different heavy metal contents in the water. But yeah, dude, anything that's an animal-based product in there is going to eliminate it from being vegan. And it's also going to add, like Shark said, those decomposing oils and fats that need to break down into nitrates. So fats and proteins and oils break down into nitrates and nitrogen. That's that decomposing process that bacteria are doing, and that's what's giving you those rootsy, sulfury type smells.
So would that be like, would I be introducing the chance of issues of extra issues of powdery mildew and things like that, going with a living soil versus one of your triple washed cocos?
A lot of PM type problems are more along the lines of an environmental issue you have going on an indoor factor. Typically, if you drop more than 12 degrees in your dark cycle, you're stimulating those bacteria, because PM is actually SCOBY, right? So it's a symbiotic colony of yeast and bacteria. So it takes a lot of different elements to come together to grow that pad that you see.
Right now, there is white powder mildew spores in this room. They're everywhere.
Yep.
That's going to come down to the environmental fluctuations, like Gordon was saying. Your nighttime temperature swings, allowing for cooler, low circulated air temperatures in shaded areas, is a great place to allow those spores to sort of take hold. The pH of your leaf plays a lot into that. So, excuse me.
We've all got
provides you're minding your environment to ensure that your day and nighttime differentials are within the plus or minus 5 degrees that you're trying to shoot for. As long as you're not keeping stagnant cups of water around where those colonies can sort of breed and multiply, you're keeping a relatively clean space around you without too much dead organic material, leaf matter, some of your amendments like in the bottom of your pots or whatever. Provided you're taking care of those issues, you should not ever see powdered mildew pop up on the plant itself as a systemic disease.
Okay.
Another thing to note is that using a silica amendment in your program will dramatically reduce your chances of seeing any powdered mildew pop up.
And I have that in the cutting edge, right? Built in, right? In the line, Gordy?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me rephrase that question. I got too specific in the powdery mildew. So having a living soil, am I introducing, versus the cocoa, am I introducing things I may not want in my environment by having a living soil? Is it bringing in contaminants, I guess?
You could bring in contaminants because it's all mixed with a broad variety of organic materials to build what it is. One thing I always say, if you want to get away from fungus gnats, get away from wood fiber, sawdust. Trees are loaded with mold naturally. They have symbiotic relationships in the forest. They are loaded with different types of decomposing mold. So they're going to bring in those pathogens just because it's in sawdust. Fungus gnats really like sawdust because of the fact that it's loaded with fungus. So getting away from those things like the animal waste, which is going to bring in pathogens, the forest products, which are going to bring in pathogens, and doing just the one clean medium with just the cocoa is actually going to eliminate a lot. Okay. And the fact that we make it do, you're not going to have fungus gnats from us because we're on the Front Range. I don't know if any of you guys have ever been to Colorado on the Front Range, but it'll be the middle of July and you'll be standing outside all night and there won't be one gnat, one mosquito, one anything. It is it's bug free. Nobody even has, I go out there and I laugh, nobody even has screens on their windows. They just open the window.
You come to my house, you better bring a suit, like one of those hazmat suits with mosquitoes everywhere.
Yeah. I live up here in the Cedar. You go out my yard, they'll pick you up and carry you off.
So let me.
But yeah, then you just want to feed it with something, either amend it with something, like I had mentioned. I know that Morganja Farms, he's getting technical again on us. But, if you do inoculate it with bacteria and the microbial colonization, it might go against the vegan thing. But, you're never going to get vegan food that's sterile one way or another. I more mean vegan in the sense that you're not putting animal waste in there. There's no bone meal. There's no fish hydroslate. There's no guanos in there to bring in bad bacteria. There's no manure-based inputs. I'm just solely talking about, I like amendments that are from Dr. Earth. They're Flower Girl. It's an ag-based amendment. You won't find it in a lot of hydro stores, but it's cheap and it's all like a vegan-based dry amendment. Works super well, dude. It's
I personally, I have never been a proponent of any manure-based amendment in any agricultural practice whatsoever. I'm kind of against it.
Are you not they grow food in manure and that, right?
Oh,
right.
These are
so a lot of
worldwide.
Here, let me change your day a little bit. When you drive past the farm, you're like, oh, how nostalgic, the smell of cow manure. That's people shit, friends. Farmers buy human waste to fertilize their farms because it's cheap.
That's why it smells so bad. That's why it smells so bad.
Yeah,
everybody eats.
I'm good on that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let me finalize this last thing. Are there any living soils out there that are vegan? The fuck?
I'm sure somewhere.
Okay.
I can't think of any off the head, but I'm sure that there are.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, what you have to look at, especially with living soils, is we're trying to mimic, nature's process very heavily to try and replicate what we think nature's trying to accomplish. At the end of the day, nature's running in a cyclical life and death pattern, right? The animal dies, goes back to the soil breaks it down, the animals eat the plant dies and goes back. So nature is not a vegan process by any stretch of the imagination. So trying to replicate nature by introducing a vegan practice and implementing it in a people fashion, it's kind of going against the purpose of a living soil.
Well made. Point well made.
Right. And then my issue with it is, so on the manure-based aspect of it. So let's say we are just solely using cow shit, right? So we're amending our fields with cow shit. So we're growing corn, right? It was a genetically engineered corn, which we sprayed with Roundup, which is full of heavy metals. We feed it to the cow. The cow processes it, shits it out. You stick it back on the field again, and then you have more the next round that you're adding to it. And every time that heavy metal level goes up, because it's one cycle leading into the next, and those heavy metals are building up not only in the animal, but in the animal waste that you're putting directly back on the same field again, which you're going to feed with more Roundup.
The perpetual cycle of where we're at now. And
considered a super accumulator. So they will take hemp in very dirty areas of the world with contaminated soil, and they will grow hemp on it to suck out all the heavy metals and all the garbage out of it a couple of cycles. So they use it to clean things up.
That's excellent that they can do that.
Oh, of course. There's even been talk about sequestering carbon from the atmosphere, doing all sorts of things. Hemp is, like you said, is a great accumulator. Will pull stuff right out of the ground and the air. Problem is that plant dies and then redistributes everything it's collected back into the environment. But it, when we're considering what we're pulling out of the ground, it will take what you give it. You want to pour amendments that are chock full of aluminum in there, then that aluminum is going to find its way into the plant, right? Molybdenum and all sorts of arsenic and what's that radioactive one that just comes out of every rock everywhere?
Cadmium. Like there's just metals everywhere you look, and the ability for the plant, sometimes dependent on the pH of where that plant soil is at, will just suck it up like a milkshake. Yeah. So, it's been mentioned here, they grow hemp around Chernobyl. That's a real thing, trying to clean up things out of the soil environment. When we went into Vietnam and we sprayed the entire jungle down with Agent Orange, our theory was to clean that up was to plant hemp and tobacco, because they both readily suck up Agent Orange. And then, we sold it as cigarettes.
Good one.
But so these things clean things up. That's the end of the day. That's why Michigan's testing is really strict. We have some of the strictest in the country. It's important because what they are putting in that flower, you are smoking, and then it's accumulating in you. And you live a lot longer than a cow. So, it's a lot of time to accumulate heavy metals and all kinds of things that are just terrible for you. So it's really important to have a look. And, as I've recommended, I always tell people, hey, the CDFA website, they test everything. Like every product that's on the market has been tested through them, fertilizer, soil, everything. And they will give you the heavy metal readouts. They'll give you everything in there.
You'd be shocked to find out how much arsenic is in the flower you smoke.
Right. So that's I was reading one of these topics, so I'll save it for another episode. But yeah, just that. And going back to when I first said that we needed to test all our soils, like outdoors when I start my garden, it would be good to know what that soil is like. And yeah, if you're buying bag soil, that would be really optimally, you would like to have that tested as well, right? Anyhow, so
yep.
We will start to wrap things up here. We are approaching the 1 hour. I appreciate your guys' time. I have to leave a little bit of time here to give some shout outs to my sponsors. As you guys know, I have the latest, greatest sponsor that just came on scene. And it'd be a good time for me to shout out all my appreciations to everyone. So you can stay on or tune off, but I'm going to light up a bowl maybe and put on some music.
Right.
Thank you.
I'm going to give you full screen to talk about your sponsors. Have a great day, man.
Thank you, cousins. All right.
See ya.
Bye for now. All right. There you have it, guys. Another excellent conversation with the Shark Mouse and Gordy Johncock. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it very much. All right, guys. I hope you like that one. I'm going to put on a little bit of music here. Hopefully you can hear this as well. This is from the band Rockstead, guys. They're out on tour. I believe they're down in Florida this weekend, kicking things off. So, yeah, anyhow, so if you tune in, let's turn this down just a little bit. Okay. The echo off? I'd make sure my echo is off. All right, guys, yeah. I have made big announcement this week. As you can see behind me right here is the Photon Tech. That's right, guys. Big shout out to everybody at Photon Tech. I'm kicking things off, guys. And I I can't wait to get them in play. I'm setting up this pseudo grow room, and I'm going to be turning the lights on soon enough. That's right. Anyhow, let me get to my show notes real quick and give some shout outs to everybody. Let's do it. Let's see. Right here, guys. Yes, I'd like to thank the AC Infinity brand for providing all the tents, the Cloud Lab tents, and their lights for those tents for the seed to harvest grow I'm doing for them, guys. Thank you very much, AC Infinity. Air bottom bags, Paul, thank you, cousin, for providing the custom air bottom bags to Shark Mouse and myself for the auto pots and this season's grow with the gurus of growing. Thank you very much, Paul. Autopot USA, thank you, cousins, for hooking your cousin Nikolai up. And of course, the Bank on Seeds. We have Big Cloud Farms, the Big Cloud family. Thank you for everybody that is tuning in and doing all the great things at the festivals. All your help and everyone. Thank you, family. All right. Let's see. The Cutting Edge Solutions. Thank you, Sean and Gordy, for tuning in today and dropping some knowledge on us. We have the Detroit Nutrient Company. Thank you, Cousin Tommy, for hooking your cousin Nikolai up last season with the soil and your Great Lakes water only. Most excellent soil. Thank you, cousin. The Earthstayer brand. Yes, new sponsor. Thank you, Blake, for hooking your cousin Nikolai up. I've got the box here. We'll be bringing Blake on to talk about the Earthstayer organic line of nutrients that we will be putting into play, the Earthcraft Biosystems. That's right, guys. Check them out on the gram. All right. Also, we have the Gage Green Group's genetic designer, Michael Fang, and his Seed Bank International. Yes, that's what we're growing here with the gurus of growing for the Pseudo-Apprenticeship, the Aqua and the Mona Lisa strains from the genetic designer. All available on your cousin Nikolai's website, link in bio, of course, and available retail at Hydro Pros, Utica, Michigan, guys, where I'm learning to grow like a pro. It's true. Anyhow, moving on, we have Hydro Giant Detroit. Thank you for all your support, Cannabis cousins, Cat Cannabis and the Champerado Sesh down there, and everybody at Hydro Giant Detroit. Thank you, cousins. We have Inkbird. They're hooking your cousin Nikolai up with the smart controllers that are running and handling the yes, the VPD guys. Yes. Also, we have Leaf Cycle LLC. Thank you for hooking us up. Check out Leaf Cycle. I believe he might have one or two left. The community calendar with all the up and coming breeders and their seed packs. Check them out. Moving on, we have the Michigan Beneficials right here, guys. Michigan Beneficials right there. Right? They are providing the soil amendments, the Bene Boost, and the beneficial bogs to keep everything in line, guys. It's true. Anyhow. All right, moving on. We have Shark Mouse Farms. Thank you. The Trim Bag and Extreme Gardening. That rounds it up, guys. As usual, if you like what your cousin Nikolai is doing, big thumbs up, comment below. Let me know you're out there. All right, guys. Stay tuned for more. I'll see you next Sunday at 10 a.m. with the gurus. Okay, bye for now. Oh, that was a good one. Let's get back to Ecamm. Where'd it go? All right, let's finish. Let's finish. And